Coming up on Arirang News. For the first time, South Korea is holding a multilateral summit with the African Union next week, inviting leaders from 48 nations under the theme of the future we make together. North Korea fired a number of short-range ballistic missiles off its east coast this morning. We take a look at the regime's intentions behind it. The Education Ministry announces the medical school admissions guidelines for the academic year of 2025, including a total increase of 1,497 students. Good evening. It's 9 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. We begin with the first South Korea-Africa summit here in the country, set to take place next week, which is the largest multilateral event under the Yoon administration. For more on what to expect, here is our presidential office correspondent, Kim Do-yeon.
48 African nations, among those around 30 heads of state. That's the expected size of the first Korea-Africa summit hosted by South Korea on June 4th and 5th.
The summit's theme is the future we make together. Making this the grand basis of Korea-Africa cooperation, we will deeply discuss the three goals: shared growth, sustainability, and solidarity.
According to the top office on Thursday, the first event-wide engagement will be the dinner banquet on June 3rd, and after the main opening ceremony kicks things off, the leaders will go into discussions. And after the closing ceremony, there will be a joint press conference by President Yoon and African Union Chair and Mauritania's President Mohamed Ould Ghazouani. On the 5th, South Korea's Trade Ministry and Korea's Trade Investment Promotion Agency, or KOTRA, will host a business summit. During this period, there will also be 13 sideline events. South Korea had actually been eyeing this event for a long time, first announcing the plan back in 2022.
교류 협력을 더욱 체계적으로 추진하기 위해 아프리카와의 기존 장관급 포럼을 정상급으로 격상하겠습니다. 이를 위해 2024년 한국에서 한-아프리카 특별 정상회의를 개최하고자 합니다.
The top office emphasized that 60% of the African population is under the age of 25, with a big market and abundant key natural resources, saying it's a must that South Korea enhances exchanges with the continent, adding such a summit has come late.
Considering our country's status in the international community, it seems somewhat late to hold the first summit now. However, the fact that most invited countries have expressed their intention to attend reflects Africa's high expectations for cooperation with South Korea.
The top office named three key aims. First, strengthening economic cooperation for co-growth, focusing on sharing South Korea's export expansion experiences. Second, promoting the transformation of industrial and digital infrastructure, focusing on the agro and fishery industries with expanded aid. Lastly, tackling global challenges together, especially through agricultural technology transfer projects. In the meantime, an official says while this is only the first event, so it can't be said for sure, and hosting around 50 nations is no easy task. It'll be the best to make it a regular event every 4 to 5 years, so administrations that follow can host such a summit at least once. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Now, in shifting gears, North Korea fired multiple ballistic missiles toward the EC this morning, having sent hundreds of balloons carrying trash to the south yesterday. Our North Korean affairs correspondent Kim Jung-sil explains the regime's intentions behind it.
North Korea launched around 10 short-range ballistic missiles on Thursday morning toward the East Sea. Firing this many missiles is almost unprecedented, according to experts, with the possible aim being to make up for the regime's failed military spy satellite launch attempt Monday night. The missiles were detected at around 6 a.m. by South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff and are estimated to have traveled around 350 kilometers.
Regarding the launch of ballistic missiles by North Korea today, we conclude that it, as well as the sending balloons carrying waste that were sent into the south, are an effort to deflect away from the failed attempt to launch a spy satellite into orbit on Monday.
The military added it immediately locked onto and tracked the missiles, sharing the related information with the U.S. and Japan. This missile provocation follows the hundreds of balloons reportedly carrying fecal matter and waste that the regime sent across the border into the south from around Tuesday night. The North Korean leader's sister, Kim Yo-jong, called the balloons sincere gifts to South Korea and said they were sent under the regime's freedom of expression. In response to Kim's comments, South Korea's Ministry of Unification released a statement on Thursday. It said that freedom of expression for the regime's people is severely restricted and it cannot be used along the same lines as in the South, referring to South Korean private organizations sending money and medicine to the North along with leaflets. The ministry added the North should realize that there are more urgent tasks to ensure its people have free access to outside information and the right to decide for themselves, instead of continuing to violate UN Security Council resolutions by launching satellite and ballistic missiles. Kim Jung-sil, Arirang News.
South Korea's Defense Minister Shin Won-sik will attend the upcoming Shangri-la dialogue held in Singapore. The Defense Ministry announced on Thursday that Shin is to have talks with the U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, as well as three-way talks with Austin and his Japanese counterpart Minoru Kihara. The trilateral meeting is to discuss strengthening security cooperation in light of North Korea's launch of military reconnaissance satellites and ballistic missiles. Shin is also to have bilateral talks with defense ministers from Canada, France, and the Philippines to discuss defense cooperation. The multilateral Asian Defense Summit will run from Friday to Sunday. A trilateral group for South Korea, Japan, and China celebrate renewed ties in light of the Trilateral Summit that took place this week. The Trilateral Cooperation Secretariat hosted its annual TCS Day on Thursday in commemoration of its establishment on this day back in 2010. Representatives from the South Korean Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Chinese and Japanese embassies were in attendance. During an opening speech, the TCS Secretary General Lee Hee-seop reaffirmed that the agency's commitment to furthering cooperation across various fields, followed up by cultural performances representative of each country. Visitors at the event were also able to experience some traditional cultures from South Korea, Japan, and China. This year's Jeju Forum, an annual event held in South Korea to discuss diplomatic and security matters, is currently taking place on the country's southern resort island. Leaders of global organizations focus on ways to overcome geopolitical risks. Our foreign affairs correspondent Bae Eun-ji follows this report from Jeju.
An annual peace forum officially kicked off on Thursday on South Korea's southern island of Jeju. One of the key events, the World Leaders Session, was held after being suspended for 4 years because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Former and current heads of international organizations have gathered here on Jeju Island to address geopolitical uncertainties as the world faces multiple crises, including ongoing conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East. Taking part in this year's event was former United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon and former Japanese Prime Minister Yasuo Fukuda. Ban stressed the need for South Korea to work closely with the United States and other like-minded countries to find ways to monitor North Korea. Noting that the North has been neglecting UN Security Council resolutions, he expressed concerns about the regime's military cooperation with Russia.
We must continue to press the members of the Security Council to extend, to revive the panel of experts on monitoring North Korean nuclear issues. It's shameful that Russia has been supporting continuously until they received some military materials to attack Ukraine.
In March, Russia blocked the annual renewal of a United Nations panel tasked with overseeing international sanctions against North Korea, using its veto power. The move was strongly criticized by Ukraine, the US, France, the UK, and other Western countries, and prompted South Korea and its allies to seek alternatives to keep an eye on the North. Meanwhile, the executive director of the APEC Secretariat, who also took part in the event on Thursday, stressed the importance of middle powers in order to overcome global risks, referring to countries that sit below great powers but still have influence over global politics.
I really feel that there is a role for middle powers in helping us to deal with those issues, whether it's climate change, whether it is the digital issues, whether it's AI, whether it's the energy transition.
There are more than 300 experts taking part in this year's Jeju Forum. It will run until Friday at the Jeju International Convention Center. 배은지, Arirang News, Jeju.
Today, the 22nd National Assembly kicked off. On the first day of its term, the ruling party emphasized the need for solidarity, while the opposition vowed to pass the contentious bill turned down by the previous assembly. Our political correspondent Lee Si-hoo reports.
The 22nd National Assembly kicked off on Thursday with a fresh makeup of lawmakers. The ruling People Power Party began a two-day workshop in the city of Cheonan in Chungcheongnam-do province, away from the National Assembly in the capital. President Yoon Suk-yeol visited to show support and encourage conservative lawmakers to work for the people of South Korea.
우리가 한 몸이 돼서 나라를 지키고 나라를 개혁하고 국가의 미래를 위해서 이 나라를 발전시키는 그런 당이 되고 저도 여러분과 한 몸으로 뼈가 빠지게 되겠습니다.
The PPP floor leader Chu Kyung-ho said the workshop's main goal is to strengthen solidarity. Chu has had the weight lifted off his shoulders after successfully keeping his PPP representatives from deviating away from the party's stance during the recent parliamentary vote on a contentious bill that aimed to prompt a special investigation into the death of a Marine last year. On Thursday, Chu told the party that they must unite as one to prevent what he described as a flood of legislation from the opposition in the new assembly. Meanwhile, the main opposition Democratic Party, which pushed for the special investigation bill with support from minor parties, both conservative and liberal, initiated its next legislative move. On Thursday, it proposed a modified version of the original bill. The new bill expands the scope of the investigation and allows for greater input from minor opposition parties in the probe team formation process. The party chairman Lee Jae-myung said the DP, together with the people, will ensure the legislation goes through. The party also introduced what it calls a number 1 livelihood bill, which, if enacted, would provide vouchers worth around 250,000 Korean won or $180 to all citizens of South Korea. They say the vouchers to be used at local businesses will boost spending and revive the economy. The 22nd National Assembly retains the previous parliament's small ruling and large opposition status, consisting of 108 PPP and 171 DP lawmakers. A total of 192 seats are taken up by the pan-opposition across parties. Lee Si-hoo, Arirang News.
Now moving on to the medical dispute over the admissions hike. The Education Ministry has unveiled its medical school quota guidelines for the academic year 2025, but the doctors are planning to hold a candlelight rally against it, saying it's a death sentence for the Korean medical system. Our Park Gun-woo has more.
Admission guidelines for the medical school quota increase in South Korea for next year were announced on Thursday by the Education Ministry. They include a total increase of 1,497 students compared to the year before across 39 colleges nationwide.
The new total is 4,610, and the figure is reported to be irreversible. Specifically compared to the year before, around 900 more students living in regions outside the capital area will be able to go to medical schools located where they live. That adds up to a total of 1,919, which is almost twice as many as the previous year. Medical schools outside the capital region were recommended by the government to pick at least 60% of their total entries from those students who are living outside the capital area. 18 followed the guidelines of at least 60%, while Jeonnam National University recorded the highest proportion among all, with 78.8%, followed by Gyeongsang National University with 72.5%, and Busan National University with 69.3%. Some schools, including Chungnam National University, were just below 60% despite their quota increase. The Korean Medical Association has responded by saying that it would hold a candlelight rally Thursday night under the slogan of "A death sentence for the Korean medical system," as it says the plans have led to the collapse of the medical system. Rallies will be held in areas across the country, including Seoul, Busan, and Daegu. Lee Myung-taek, the head of the KMA, said on Wednesday that an important declaration will be made during the rallies. While speculation rises as to whether Im will announce a general walkout, some people in the medical community say this hasn't been decided. Park Gun-woo, Arirang News.
Amid the rise of Chinese e-commerce companies in the domestic market, South Korean companies have now begun to use quick commerce to remain competitive. Our business correspondent Lee Soo-jin tells us more. It's an age where consumers need instant gratification in every part of their lives. And South Korean e-commerce companies are trying to provide this need to remain competitive. Q-commerce, or quick commerce, allows for deliveries to be made in just a couple of hours and sometimes even less than an hour, thanks to local warehouses and stores in urban areas. This is one such local warehouse that's located in the capital city Seoul, one of the busiest and packed cities in the world, and its close proximity is what allows deliveries to be made quickly. And micro-fulfillment centers often serve as warehouses in crowded cities because they take up less space. The nation's first smart micro-fulfillment center in a gas station has not only maximized its use of space, but has also minimized labor costs thanks to its automated order fulfillment process. When goods arrive, an employee scans each item and places them in a basket that is automatically taken up to the second level. And that's where 6 robots sort and store up to 3,600 goods each day based on where and when they need to be delivered.
We store and provide instant delivery of a variety of products such as makeup and phone accessories to nearby districts, such as Gangnam-gu, Seocho-gu, and Songpa-gu.
This whole process, he says, takes only around 5 minutes, making instant deliveries possible. There are still other businesses that have joined the Q-commerce boom by taking advantage of their large network of stores, such as this health and beauty retailer that has around 1,400 chain stores across the nation. They offer a plethora of goods from snacks and supplements to makeup and perfume that can all be delivered within 3 hours of when the order is first placed. And it's been hugely successful, as 60% of the online orders in the Seoul metropolitan area are Q-commerce deliveries.
Korea has the best environment for Q-commerce because just by covering the Seoul metropolitan area, it can cover 70% of the demand, as that area has 70% of the nation's purchasing power.
He added that to further streamline delivery operations, businesses should use AI technology that can predict product demand to optimize inventories at local warehouses and stores. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News. Classrooms with only chalkboards and textbooks could become a thing of the past. Our Choi Soo-hyung went to an education fair to check out the learning methodologies for future generations.
The teacher rolls digital dice instead of using chalk. Students use tablet styluses instead of pencils. This is a model classroom showing education methods for future generations at the 2024 Korea Glocal Education Fair in Yeosu, Jeollanam Province. The teacher running the model AI classroom said it is time to prepare for future education that goes beyond the accumulation of knowledge.
When we teach, we prioritize problem-solving skills over mere knowledge memorization. We focus more on this area by creating problem-solving spaces in the metaverse, which brings many positive effects.
Bong, the teacher, said that future education will be based on sharing and communication, unlike traditional passive education where knowledge is simply delivered from a teacher to the student. Students who participated in a history class said they could focus even more and enjoyed learning interactively.
It's definitely more interesting and fun to learn within games on a screen compared to just reading textbooks.
Communicating with the teacher is also more efficient. Instead of just listening to the teacher's lecture from a textbook, we can present together and see the teacher from different angles, making the class more effective.
One of the educational devices company officials participating in the fair spoke about the schools that apply future education systems.
In one middle school and one high school, the system is now in place and working effectively. According to school officials and teachers, using our system has notably reduced fatigue during full-day classes and significantly improved efficiency in sharing lessons and collaborative work among students.
The 2024 Korea Glocal Education Fair will run until June 2nd. Jeju, Arirang News, Yosu.
In other news, a South Korean court has ordered the chief of one of the country's biggest technology conglomerates, SK Group, to pay a record-breaking sum in a divorce lawsuit. On Thursday, the Seoul High Court ordered Choi Tae-won to pay 1.38 trillion Korean won, or roughly $1 billion in property division to his estranged wife, No So-young. The legal battle began in 2015 when Choi admitted to having an extramarital affair and a child out of wedlock. But the latest ruling comes from an appeals court. Choi's lawyer said that he plans to appeal. SK Incorporation is the holding company of one of the world's largest semiconductor companies in the world, SK Hynix. The firm's shares jumped by 9% following the ruling, as there is a possibility of a stakes dispute if stocks become subject to property division.
Skies were cloudy today, so the sun couldn't be felt as strongly. It will remain cloudy today, and there will be some rain on Jeju Island and the south coast overnight. After that, clear skies are expected to be gradually restored from tomorrow morning. Tomorrow's Seoul will be at 17 degrees Celsius in the morning. Other areas will be similar to or slightly higher than today's temperatures. Daytime temperatures will be 26 degrees in Seoul, higher than today. In particular, there will be in various parts of the Gyeongsang-do provinces and surrounding regions with Daegu as high as 30 degrees. Daegu, Busan, and Jeju will start off at 18 degrees tomorrow morning. It will move up to 27 in Chuncheon, Daejeon, and Gwangju. It is expected to rain in the central regions and Gyeongsang-buk-do province over the weekend. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
Well, that is all for this newscast tonight. Thank you for watching. We'll be back with the latest news tomorrow. Good night.